games. Time to get hyped, because the LCS preview show starts right now.
And CLG looks to win the fastest game of the North American Spring Split. The Nexus falls at 21-35.
Nexus turret number 1 is gone. Nexus turret number 2. Meteos trying to close the game by himself. And the 4-4-2 Meteos takes down the Nexus. Dignitas to hold on to their 4th seed, putting in the damage.
Crumbs is pumped about that one.
Cloud9 staves off Team Solo Mid one more time to go 3-0 in the 4 matches against them. Cloud9 is going to be more than happy to keep sole possession of first place.
Hey everyone, I'm David Freak Turley alongside Joshua Jat Leishman. Today, we got a special North American playoff edition of the LCS preview show. How's it going, Jat?
Feeling like it's playoff time. We have a huge weekend of games, and a lot will be decided after these next 3 days.
I'm honestly surprised playoffs are here already. I can actually barely realize that it's happening, but going to be casting today. Our top story right now is the return of Skara. After spending 2 weeks on the bench, he'll be starting in the mid lane for Dignitas in today's quarterfinal match against Curse. Now, before week 10, it was announced that the 2013 All-Star would be replaced in the mid lane after having his worst LCS split to date. At the time of his benching, Skara had the least kills, the most deaths, and the second lowest KDA of all the starting North American mid laners, and Dignitas was struggling. Then enter Golden Glue. With the new mid laner in the lineup, Dignitas went 3-3 over the last 2 weeks, locked in the 4th seed in the playoffs, and beat Curse for the first time all year. In that game, Golden Glue racked up 8 kills. Skara only had 4 kills total in Dignitas' previous 3 losses to Curse, and those are their quarterfinal opponents today.
Yeah, and if you look at the conventional metrics, the decision to start Skara in the mid lane this playoffs might seem like a mistake because they were 3-3 with Golden Glue.
Yeah.
But if we dig a little deeper into the stats, we can see that Golden Glue has actually been struggling mightily. The first stat we're going to look at is CS. Through 6 LCS games, Golden Glue has averaged 52.5 CS at the 10-minute mark. That's actually 20 lower than the league average and 16 lower than the second lowest mark by a starting mid laner in the LCS, which is Cloud9's High. But unlike High, Golden Glue isn't dealing much damage to enemy champions either. He currently deals 24.4% of his team's damage dealt to enemy champions. The league average for mid laners is actually 27.8%, and no other mid laner or AD carry deals less than 25% of his team's damage. So Dignitas as a whole has actually been playing much better since Skara stepped down, but the props go to the rest of that team and not necessarily Golden Glue.
Well, we'll see if the team can keep that performance going up, because the semifinals, they're going to be important. And of course, later today is going to be their quarterfinal match against Curse. So before we get to that, though, we're going to rewind and talk about the European LCS Spring playoffs. On Tuesday, Rocket blasted past a full boot camped Gambit into the semifinals, while Alliance fought back from a Game 1 loss to muzzle the Copenhagen Wolves.
Then in Wednesday's semifinals, Fnatic shut down Froggen and his Alliance before the top-seeded SK Gaming shut down the Polish Rocket.
And that set up the final showdown between the top 2 teams in Europe for the Spring Split title, with Fnatic looking to win their 3rd straight LCS championship. Well, Fnatic took the first 2 games of the series before SK managed to pull out Game 3. But Peke and crew were too much for the top-seeded team in the bracket, and Fnatic walked away with Game 4 to win their 3rd straight European League Championship Series title.
And really, for the last year and a half, Fnatic's been the best team in Europe. Not only have they won 3 straight titles, but they made it to the semifinals of the Season 3 World Championship, and most recently the finals of IEM.
Yeah, and so while Fnatic walked away with the Spring Split title, the playoffs didn't go nearly as well for the Copenhagen Wolves, because their 6th place finish meant that the Wolves joined the Super Hot Crew and Millennium as the demoted LCS teams.
But also, because of their 6th place finish, the Wolves do get first choice of which challenger team to face, and they've actually made that decision already. They chose Denial. That was no big surprise.
Yeah, that was the 3rd place team anyway. So once the Wolves locked in Denial, it was up to the Super Hot Crew to choose their opponents. They chose challenger champions Cloud9 Eclipse, which meant that Millennium will be facing Ninjas in Pajamas for the final spot in the Summer Split.
Yeah, and you can actually watch those 6 teams fight for a spot in the European LCS Summer Split when the promotion tournament kicks off next Thursday, April 24th at 10 a.m. Pacific or 7 p.m. Central European Summertime.
So now let's turn our attention to North America. 2 weeks ago, the NA LCS Spring Split regular season came to a close with a super week's worth of games, including the battle between Counterlogic Gaming and Cloud9.
Here come the highlights.
Yeah, so C9 comes in, fighting for first place seed, CLG pretty securely in 3rd. But the game was all kind of fun.
These CLG vs Cloud9 games have become a spectacle. They are so close, especially in the early and mid game. Meteos goes a little crazy here, jumping over the Dragon Pit.
But, he's okay. Burns the flash, not a huge deal. But yeah, C9 starts getting a bunch of kills early on. But CLG is a team that actually fires back. This is my favorite move of the game, Aframu. This flay right here predicts the leap, and it secures the kill for it.
Aframu is such a playmaker for CLG on support here. It seemed at this point like CLG was going to take a big lead, but it's actually Cloud9 that grew a big gold advantage. Yeah,
so they got really far ahead, C9, but Doublelift comes up gigantic in this team fight. Of course, the team helps this one, but Doublelift comes up with the quadra kill in this one. So CLG starting to look good finally later on in the game.
You give Doublelift a quadra kill, 6 kills in the game now, 35 minutes in. The old Doublelift would have went off and farmed a side lane away from his team, but the new Doublelift surely will hold on to this lead.
No, he's going to farm the jungle. What else would Doublelift do but get caught out a little bit, and then Meteos and crew start chasing down. Aframu, Nian tries to save. It does save Doublelift.
Ironically enough, Doublelift is the only one who doesn't die in this one, but it does end up costing CLG the game. After a near comeback, they fall in a great game against Cloud9.
And that's going to make it 3-1 C9 in the head-to-head for that one. Up next, though, the battle for 4th place between 10 and 14 Dignitas and the 10 and 15 Curse here. And Dignitas came into this one 0-3 against Curse in the year.
Yeah, and the roaming Kiwi Kid is something that he's been doing all year. Level 2 at 5 minutes. Surprise, gets the kill on Elise.
Yep. Not, pretty scary champion overall. Then, of course, here's this big team fight there. Missed Shockwave, but this is the fight that goes really well for Golden Glue and ends up that he gets a quadra kill in this one.
Yeah, it was the quadra kill from nowhere, it seemed like. No Shockwave, but he ends up getting all the kills with the ball. It gave Dignitas a lot of confidence and pulled them back in this game.
Yeah, final distance right there, put them in, and Dignitas kind of kept that thing going. They actually got their first win of the season against Curse, and things were looking a bit better.
It's the high five from Crumbs as well, but TSM vs Cloud9 was the spectacle.
Yeah, fight for the first place in the split right here, and honestly, C9 just looked better the whole way through. Blue F steal 12 minutes in. They even win this fight.
Yeah, and a rare ultimate miss by Bjergsen's Gragas right here, and you just cannot afford mistakes like that against High Soraka. He just chased people down, one star call after another.
Yeah, so it's going to be really good. And then, of course, another big team fight by the mid-game, though, C9. Close to closing it out. Sneaky goes down, but they get so much more.
Yeah, it's just the continual chase from Cloud9. Balls comes in late. Everyone is so low because of this monstrous ball of team fight power Cloud9 had built up. He finishes off Audron with a nice dash.
That's going to be C9 taking the first place. You can see the players know it. They're all holding their fingers up saying, yeah, we are the #1 team in North America. One of the funnest games, though, C9 versus Coast. Didn't mean a ton for the standings, maybe a bit for confidence, but it was a great game.
Absolutely. Coast came into this one looking really good. Look at the start of this, up 4 kills to 0, then 5 kills as well, getting Meteos after he picks up 1.
And it kind of just keeps going this way, honestly. Even Wiz Fusion stepped up really well in this one. You can see he's 2, 3, and 5, but Shifter, 10, 0, and 2, one-shotting high. That kept happening.
Such a powerful LeBlanc here, but look out, where is Meteos and why is nobody on Coast back at the base? What a miracle push here by Meteos. They're down 11 kills.
Yeah, but Cloud9 realized they're all going to buy time, push people around. The backdooring of the Nexus by Meteos. It's great because Coast are the team that got the Nexus dive against TSM earlier in the year, so they get to taste their own medicine.
One of the most ridiculous finishes we've seen in North American LCS this year. One time Coast gets the base race, the other time Meteos just solos their Nexus. That also gave them a 13-game winning streak, which is pretty impressive for Cloud9.
Yeah, Cloud9, of course, looking great. So, after 3 Super Weeks, 1 ERF exhibition, and 112 North American LCS games, the final spring split standings look like this. Cloud9 locked in the second straight #1 playoff seed, and now have a regular season record of 49-7 over their first 2 splits. Pretty good.
Yeah, Team Solo Mid dropped to 2nd place after having their worst week of the spring. And despite finishing the split with a 2-2 performance, Counterlogic Gaming finally lived up to their potential and posted their first winning record in the LCS.
But on the flip side of that are the teams at the bottom of the standings. Despite getting a lot of love after their performance at the spring promotion tournament, the Evil Geniuses weren't able to come up with a solid solution to their struggles and joined XDG as 2 of the 3 teams, NA LCS teams in the summer promotion tournament.
Yeah, and that's an especially big slide for XGG, who actually finished 3rd in last summer's LCS playoffs and then competed in the World Championships. 6 months later, they finished 8th and will be in that promotion tournament.
And it's a rough road for these guys. Of course, that means XDG and the Evil Geniuses will not be included in the spring playoff bracket. But let's check out the teams who are. Because of their 1-2 finish in the standings, Cloud9 and Team Solo Mid pass to go and head directly to the semifinal round.
Meanwhile, in the quarterfinals, it'll be the 4th-seeded Team Dignitas versus the 5th-seeded Curse, and Team Coast will be taking on Counter Logic Gaming.
So now let's take a closer look at today's playoff matches. Scar had some interesting things to say last week at this desk. He knew what he was talking about when he said that Team Coast is a dangerous 6th seed. That's because it was just last spring that a 6th-seeded Team Coast took out 3rd-seed Dignitas in the first round of the playoffs, took out Team Curse in the semifinals, and brought TSM to 5 games in the finals. That put Coast 1 Nexus away from winning the 2013 Spring Split.
Yeah, and I actually agree with Scar's analysis that he dropped last week. The Team Coast has a lot of potential, but the odds of them pulling off a repeat performance this spring are not very good. Not only has Counter Logic Gaming swept the season series, they've dominated Coast statistically. CLG has a KDA that's 4.5 times higher than Coast in their head-to-head games, and a big reason for that enormous difference is the guy Kobe rates as CLG's best jungler ever, who is Dexter. He averages 6 kills a game versus Coast, 3 more than he averages against the other LCS teams in the league even, and he boasts the highest KDA on CLG versus Team Coast at 15.3. But the jungle isn't all about kills, it's also about lane pressure. Dexter excels at that as well. His early game ganks in their 4 meetings have shut down most of Coast lanes, with one exception. Shifter actually has more kills than Link in their head-to-head games, despite having a lower KDA. That's because while Shifter has been killing it, the rest of Coast have been getting killed, letting Link rack up a ton of assists. Let's also head over to the top lane matchup where Nien has a KDA that's 5.5 times higher than Coast split-pushing specialist Zion Spartan. Part of Zion's struggles can be attributed to Dexter, of course, but CLG is also really good at collapsing on Zion and stopping his split-pushing tendencies. In fact, Zion's KDA of 0.94 versus CLG is his lowest versus any LCS team. That actually brings us to the bottom lane, where we have Coast Wiz Fusion and Daydreamin versus CLG's superstar tandem Doublelift and Aphromoo, who, by the way, received more all-star votes than any other bot lane duo. In the games between CLG and Coast, Rush Hour has run all over Coast bot lane with a KDA that's almost 5 times higher than their counterparts. While Doublelift has racked up 22 kills over their 4 meetings, Wiz Fusion only has 4, and for some perspective, Aphromoo is sitting at 9. Now, I said at the top that Team Coast has potential, but it's Counter Logic Gaming that have finally started living up to theirs, and they'll most likely advance to face Team Solo Mid in the semifinals.
So while Coast and CLG might have some more flash in that matchup, the battle between 4th seed Dig and 5th seed Curse has a lot more history and a lot more pressure for these two historic franchises. That's because history hasn't translated into LCS success for either squad. Both Dignitas and Curse have been relegated into a promotion tournament before, and the only playoff series that either of these teams has actually won in LCS history was when Dig beat Curse last year at PAX.
Yeah, Freak, and just like last year heading into the playoffs, it's Curse that holds the head-to-head lead, winning the first 3 head-to-head games this spring. But that streak was broken during the final week of the season as Dig's new mid laner Golden Glue secured a quadra kill, finished that game at 8-2-5. But as we said at the top of the show, he won't be starting in mid today. And so far this spring, Voyboy has destroyed Scar in mid lane. In their first 3 games, Voyboy put up a KDA of almost 11 when lined up across from Scar. And he's not the only member of Curse that has big stats against Dignitas. Quas has left Cruiser bruised in their head-to-heads with a KDA that's more than double Dig's top laner, while Cop consistently outdueled QtPie, piling up a KDA of 6.86 to Qt's 2.73. Plus, it looks like Curse has found a playmaking support in Bunny Fufu. You know, after they tried out Zcad and they resurrected Saint, Curse's bot lane has not looked this good ever. And that actually brings me to the last member of Curse, their jungler I Will Dominate. His greatest strength is in securing objectives in their head-to-head against Dignitas. He helped Curse take down twice as many towers and dragons and 5 times as many barons and inhibs than Dignitas took down as a whole. Now overall, I feel like Curse's roster is stronger and has the advantage in this individual matchups. And that's why I think they'll advance to the semifinals to face Cloud9.
All right, Jat, so before we move on, I got one more question for you.
All right.
Who's going to win the Spring Split?
This is a really tough call, but honestly, the #1 seed, the team that has been dominating throughout the summer split of last year and the spring split of this year, Cloud9, has to be the favorite, but it's pretty close.
Yeah, I think makes a lot of sense. They've been winning the most, of course. So if Jet's crystal ball is still OP, that means Coast and Dignitas will be competing in the 5th place match. And the team that comes up short in that series is going to be relegated into the summer promotion tournament, where they're going to face the top 3 challenger teams. On Sunday, the North American Challenger Spring Series wrapped up with LMQ taking out Cloud9 Tempest in 5 games. When you combine those 2 teams with Complexity Black, who took 3rd in the Challenger Series, and the LCS teams that finished 7th and 8th, Dignitas and XDG, we now know 5 of the 6 teams that will be participating in the summer promotion tournament.
And of course, you can check out all the promotion action starting in a week and see for yourself if LMQ turns out to be the next Cloud9. Because the 2014 NA LCS Summer Promotion Tournament kicks off on Saturday, April 26th at noon Pacific or 9 p.m. Central European Summer Time.
And so now that we've broken down the bracket, let's check out the top performers in kills, deaths, and assists for the 2014 Spring Split. While TSM's mid laner Bjergsen came up short in his quest for ManCloud's all-time record, he did top the league in kills this split. It really makes you wonder what he could have done if he actually played all 28 games. And as far as deaths go, Coast jungler Nintendo X found himself watching more gray screens of regret than any other player. While the most helpful player in North America was Cloud9 support Lemonation.
Yeah, and thanks to all that support, his AD carry Sneaky put up the highest KDA in North America. The jungle Meteos was the KDA champ last summer, which actually means a member of Cloud9 has earned that honor for the second straight split.
But while Cloud9 claimed half the individual titles, it was Team Solo Mid who walked away with more top spots in team stats. Thanks to Bjergsen's 155 kills and Wild Turtle's 144, the second highest total in the league, by the way, Team Solo Mid put up 498 total kills.
And as far as most deaths, the Evil Geniuses found themselves watching their timers count down 492 times over the split. And finally, even though Cloud9 had the most assists, TSM were the ones who walked away with the highest team KDA.
So now let's flash from the single season marks to the all-time records and take a look at the players and team who rewrote the LCS record books. We're going to start with Super Hot Crew support Migza. His 128 deaths broke KiwiKid's heart and his previous death total of 126.
And next up is the man in the solo mid for TSM, Bjergsen. Broke his own record for highest kills per game in a split. It was 6.91. It's now 7.05.
And just like his teammate, Wild Turtle upped his own mark, but this time for highest gold per minute over a split by more than 7 gold pieces. Next record to fall was for the most kills by a jungler. Diamond of Gambit Gaming previously held that record with 89, but Meteos crushed it by stacking up 107 kills. I guess it shows he likes to farm champs as well as camps.
Yeah, and Cloud9 actually added one more record that they already owned. Their 13 wins in a row to close out this spring split tied the record that they set last summer.
So heading into the final week of the LCS split, there's one more record with a shot at being broken. Through the first 3 months of the split, the pros picked 93 unique champions, and that put us just 5 short of the total from last spring. Last week of the regular season started off with a ton of promise as Diamond pulled out Udyr and Youngbuck whipped out Heimerdinger in the same game. Soaz helped out the quest for the record with a top lane Yorick, but that was it for Europe.
And then in North America, Sneaky flew in with Corki and Zuna chose Kog'Maw, which brought us to 93. It officially tied the record for most champs played in a split, but that was it.
Yeah, so of course, even though we didn't break the record, at least we scratched it. So way to go LCS pros. Woo! And way to go to Jocks to Fox, even though you technically cheated and tweeted 2 champions because you picked Udyr and Heimerdinger and they both made their debut. This one time we'll let it slide and you still get a gold star.
Yeah, and now while the champs selected in the playoffs won't count towards our spring split total, it's still a lot of fun to guess. So hit us up at LOL Esports, hashtag it LCS Preview, and try to predict which champs will be played for the first time this season.
And so while 93 champs have seen some playing time on the Rift, here are the 5 that got picked the most, or as Jocks to Fox likes to call it, the Instalock. Over the 11 weeks of the North American Spring Split, Caitlyn and Leona eclipsed 113 of the champions in the league to finish tied for 4th, while Shyvana descended to the number 3 spot as most popular top laner NA, and just like over in Europe, the 2 most popular picks in NA were Lucian and Thresh.
But just because they were the most picked, it doesn't mean they were the most feared. Despite getting played in 70 games, Lucian only received 3 bans all spring, and all 3 of those came during the last week of the split.
Yeah, speaking of bans, let's go ahead and take a look at the list of the top 5 most banned in the North American Spring Split. Mampion dropped in at the 5 spot, while Lulu's Wild Growth as a deadly mid laner garnered her the 4th most bans.
Repelling in at number 3 is the Spider Queen, with LeBlanc earning the 2nd most bans thanks to Bjergsen's propensity to melt other mid laners with the Deceiver. But of course, the champ who got put in ban jail more than anyone else was Kassadin.
You're learning well, Jad. I'm proud of you. All right, guys. Come on, you deserve that one. There we go. Let's turn our attention now to the All-Star event in Paris. The North American champions will join the top teams from the GPL, LPL, Korea, and the EU LCS in the All-Star Invitational, a mid-season tournament to crown the best team in the world.
We'll have to wait to see till the end of the week to see who North American will be sending. We already know who will be representing the other 4 regions. Earlier this week, China's OMG secured their spot in Paris, joining the Taipei Assassins, who will be representing Southeast Asia. And the 3rd team is Korea's SKT T1K, who will look to repeat their World Championship performance on the All-Star stage. And just yesterday, the 3-time EU LCS champions Fnatic claimed the right to compete in Paris as well with their victory in the LCS.
Yeah, so we have the Season 1, 2, and 3 world champions all going to All-Star.
Will we see 4?
We're going to see the Season 4 champions there. I'm calling it here. We'll see what happens. Now, of course, the best teams in the world will be competing in the All-Star Invitational. The most popular players from across the globe will be taking part in the All-Star Challenge. Let's check out the LCS pros that received the most love after 14 days of voting. The most popular pros from the European LCS were Fnatic's AD carry Reckless and mid laner Xpeke. Coming in at number 3 is Gambit's jungler Diamond, with Alliance's mid laner Froggen and Fnatic top laner Soaz rounding it out. But since Fnatic is going to the All-Star Invitational, Diamond and Froggen will compete in the All-Star Challenge.
And over here in North America, the top 5 in the fan voting were Solo Mid's Burger King. He reigned supreme. COG's Double finished at number 2. In third place, Cloud9's Meteos was there, while TSM's Wild Turtle and Dyrus rounded out the top 5.
So remember, if a team qualifies for the All-Star Invitational, like Fnatic, then their players are ineligible for the All-Star Challenge, which means the next highest player will be awarded a spot in the competition.
Yeah, and with all the top spots in the voting being occupied by playoff favorites, the games this week won't just determine which team goes to Paris, but which players compete in the All-Star Challenge as well.
Yeah, so let's go from the most popular players in North America to the most OP. Here's the 2014 North American LCS Spring Split All-League team, as voted by a panel of casters, writers, and the pros themselves. Let's kick it off with the top lane. Where else could it be but Balls, Cloud9's top lane equalizer. Balls led all LCS top laners, both EU and NA, in KDA and gold per minute, and his 84 kills were second only to Zion Spartan in that role.
Yeah, it's really hard to argue with this selection. Balls is mutually respected by all the top laners in North America. He just shows up every game on whatever champion Cloud9 needs. He's also mechanically proficient. His CS at 10 minutes is head and shoulders above other top laners. 76 CS at 10. The next highest in the North American LCS is Quas at 69. So Balls, so good.
Incredibly skilled player. Let's head now to the jungle, though. Cloud9's Meteos was once again the best jungler in North America. As we said earlier, he locked in the record for most kills in a split by a jungler. Add to the fact that he had the second highest KDA in the entire LCS, and you can see why his peers scored him as the best in his position.
Yeah, ever since this guy came into the LCS, he has been a top-tier jungle, but especially this year, because he isn't farming as many jungle camps as he did previously. He changed his game to have more pressure in the early game, and he has still managed to maintain his threat throughout the game. He's still just as powerful late in the game. That's because he's been farming kills with that kill record instead of camps, and it's worked out great for him.
Another phenomenal player there to add to the NA roster. Now let's head to the mid lane. Team Solo Mid's Bjergsen made an immediate impact in his first North American split. He set the LCS record for most kills per game, and despite playing only 22 of the 28 games, he led the entire LCS in kills. He also led all LCS mid laners with a KDA of 6.32.
Yeah, the numbers do not lie for Bjergsen. He had big shoes to fill coming in to replace Reginald, and he did it and then some. Everyone who plays against this guy fears him. He wins 1v1s more often than not, and is just a force all around for TSM. He gets so many kills, doesn't die that often, and is great at assassins.
Yeah, he's just a wonderful player overall, and he adapted so quickly to the team, which is great to see for him, to have the individual performance also carry over. So now, let's look over at the AD carry role. Cloud9's ADC tiptoed past more high-profile players like Doublelift and Wild Turtle to win the award. Sneaky led the entire LCS in KDA, had the third most kills, and only died 44 times over 28 games.
Yeah, this is obviously one of the closer positions because North American AD carries are so strong by and large, but Sneaky's numbers speak for themselves. He is the most proficient player on the most proficient team for AD carry. He also has done the second most damage to champions while dying less than anyone else in the NA LCS, which is just equally as impressive as getting the nod for being the all-league AD carry for NA.
Yeah, he's showing up to every team fight, but still not getting himself caught out. So it's great optimization there, positioning that whole kit. Great by Sneaky. So last but not least on the list is the all-league support. Team Solo Mid's Xpecial. He is the only player on this list that was in the North American LCS at the beginning of last spring, and he continued to get better with age. He led all LCS supports in KDA and tied Kiwi Kid for the most kills secured.
Yeah, Xpecial's like a fine wine. He took another big step this year as well, because you look at all the older players in the LCS, the guys that were around in Season 1 and Season 2, and they're either on their way out, getting benched, or they're retired. And then there's EpicSkillshot, who
Yeah.
made the all-league team and has had his best split he's ever had in the LCS. It is such an accomplishment to stay motivated and keep himself continually improving, which he has done this year.
Yeah, great player again. So now from the players who were the biggest in their roles to the player who had the biggest impact on his team, it's time to name the 2014 North American League Championship Series Spring Split Most Valuable Player. The MVP award goes to TSM's Bjergsen.
Yeah, Bjergsen has been unstoppable this year, and not only was it the shoes he had to fill with Reginald, coming over across regions as well, it's that he single-handedly carried so many games for TSM. There were so many times where if Bjergsen wasn't unstoppable in the game, if he wasn't 7-0, if he wasn't landing all those Nidalee spears, TSM would have flat out lost. They would not have been a top team in North America, it seems. Yes, there was that 1 week with Reginald out, but every time Bjergsen was there, he was a force to be reckoned with and the most valuable player for North America.
Yeah, I agree with the call. It's a great player overall. So now let's take some time to move from the league's most valuable player to the league's most amazing plays as we count down the 5 biggest hashtag LCS big plays of the NA LCS Spring Split.
At number 5, CLG brings more cowball.
Well, that didn't work for Coast. Not ideal for CLG, but Afro able to save double, and then again! The ball delivery cow making it happen. 2-3 kills so far.
Coming in at number 4, it's Bjergsen with the juice.
Really do what he needs to here. The blue buff has worn off of Bjergsen, so he is hoping for that W to come up once again.
Oh, the juke!
Oh, he took it out! He'll be able to get past the special. Bjergsen flashes. That is incredible.
At number 3, Nintendo flashes with his godlike prediction skills.
Yeah, now they're going to see him. The flash flay comes in. Oh, he gets it again!
What in
he
the
did the
world?
same thing to Dyrus in their last game!
Nintendo is pretty much a god.
Coming in at number 2, Afromu takes the long way for a double kill.
Dexter coming up with a kill there, but this is bad.
Uh-oh,
Meteos gets the Q and execute down on him. Double lift very low here. This could be a double kill for Meteos. Can he get the extra damage down? The red buff is ticking. Red buff gonna take him down, but he gets taken down in the well. Oh my God, Afro still going on. Minion sneaky, don't shoot a minion. Oh my God, Minion's OP. The barrier. Afro with the Zenith blade. He wants the piece. He wants it, and he gets the kill.
Afro Fu comes out the victor.
And the number 1 play from NA is what else? Shifter.
Ghost daydreaming his 10 HP. The odd one's trying to do what he can. Shifter with the Lick Bane on.
Oh my God.
Spear rush. Still going for the kills. The second, he's not going to get it. Oh my God, he does get it. Ghost breaks the win streak of Team Solo Mid to go 5-8.
I just love that Zion pushed Nintendo away just to get into Shifter sooner.
He was really excited.
Yeah.
I mean, there was only one guy up taking the Nexus. He just saw past his jungler.
Yes, that's how you gotta go. You gotta dive, you gotta make it to the back line, congratulate the right person. That's how you do it as a top laner. Get back there. So guys, we've come to the end of the last LCS preview show of the spring, but before we head out, let's last hit some of our favorite moments from the spring split.
This will be a good opportunity for me to show off what I can do with my hands.
Does he have the skills to pay the bills? It's Sheep trying to get the kills down. The buff gets transferred over to ManCloud.
I'm sure you've already got tons of sheep puns prepped.
Well, you know, he said coming in he'd be a little bit nervous, but he wasn't sheepish. You've got a sheep on one side, Moo on the other. It's a bit of a farm lane. They're gonna be pretty bad.
Oh! Wow, the Thresh Express monthly pass coming in for Link there.
Kiwi Kid just so excited.
And so I spent a lot of time working on that crumbling factor. You'll see if you guys can keep the crumbs together here with this one. We want to get your thoughts.
Thanks for that insight. Now check this out. Double spider. I'm so good.
I'm here with Meteos. You just died. What happened? I lagged. You lagged on land. You lagged on land?
He can have his cake and eat it too. What is this that you have? Oh, yeah, let's look away.
You can pull out the chase.
Whoa, wow, wait a minute. Back and forth. What just happened? I have no idea. Dyrus is going in.
Overall, I'm like, if you don't lose, you're going to win.
Up until they lose the game, they're winning.
The secret behind CLG's decision-making, magic spinners.
Shifter finally goes down in the double ace.
Daydreaming literally sees the future.
He saw it in a daydream.
That was too far. That was when you should have stopped.
Here is your funny hat trick, and I have decided that I am a winner as well. So,
But not congratulations to me.